Good morning, class. Good morning, class.
Good morning, sir.
Where are we? What topic are we supposed to do today?
Land pollution.
Land pollution. Well, all of us know that land is an important factor of production and an essential component of the terrestrial ecosystem, upon which many lives, both human and natural and non-natural resources, depend upon. The land is the habitat for large numbers of animals and microorganisms, and also the land support plants, as well as the fact that plants provide food for mankind. It is from the land that we derive many raw materials that we use for fuel, food, and building materials. As a result of that, land is an important factor of production. Land is used for many purposes, and it is only one of those resources that God has given to us that can never be destroyed. Land can never be destroyed, even if there is an earthquake or anything, the land still maintains its structure. There is always a means to get it back. Like I always say in all environmental law classes, nature do pollute. But we are not concerned about the pollution from nature because it is not regular and because the impact sometimes could be minimal and not necessarily permanent. And if we are to have a permanent pollution emanating from nature, it is once occurrence, unlike the daily pollution arising from the activities of man. And so the major concern of the environmentalists are those substances, activities on land that tend to undermine the importance or the quality of land resources for any of the diverse purposes for which land may be used for. What do you understand by land, or what do we mean by land pollution? Land pollution or soil pollution will arise as a result of consequences of human activities in producing unwanted byproducts and their subsequent disposals. It may also arise when any waste or noxious substances or chemical are accumulated or deposited or dumped on land in such a state or condition that should be injurious to the health of man, animal, plants, or vegetation, or the aesthetic quality of the physical environment. Now, like I said it is the anthropogenic emission, that is human emission into the environment. If you throw ordinary leaf on the land, it's like providing manure for those plants. But if you go and dump petroleum products on the land, it is going to destroy the land. Wherever petroleum products or oily products is deposited on land, that land can never grow. Or if you deposit toxic waste on land, as was done in cocoa that led to the introduction of environmental law in Nigeria, then it is not only dangerous to the land itself, it's also dangerous to human. Do not forget, if you remember, I don't know whether I was the one that taught you I told you that the relationship between man and environment is symbiotics. We interact with one another. The land that we walk upon every day of our life is the same land that we plant. If we put dangerous or noxious substance on those land or dump them there, and we produce or we plant products or goods or crops on such land, what do we expect to get? At the end of the day, we will be consuming contaminated food. Just like when you drop dangerous substances in water bodies, and you go to that water bodies to fish, of course, you know you are eating polluted fish. So the same thing with land. When we deposit or dump noxious or chemical substance that are injurious to the land onto that land, that chemical, that noxious substances will percolate into the ground through leaching and then destroy. Please hold on for me. So, and because of those dumping activities, the crops to be harvested on those land will not be good for consumption. If you have read the case of Eastern Leather County countries against Cambridge Water Works against Eastern Leather County PLC, you will notice that chemicals being used for tanneries for production of leather, they were percolating into an underground aquifer before leaching down to pollute the underground water. The same thing goes when you put a dangerous substances on land and leaches on those soil, and you plant cash or food crops on those land, then the land will produce contaminated food. And that is why when farmers use pesticides to kill rodents or dangerous rodents, excessive use of chemical in fertilizer or on land also have effect on human health and the food chain that is supplied. That is the concern of the environmentalists, to ensure that some of these noxious and dangerous chemicals are well controlled and of limited quantity, so that it will not be injurious not only to us as human beings, but also to the immediate inhabitant of the environment, the insects, the rodents that are also good, or animals that are also good from for beneficial purposes. Land contamination are also caused by industries due to the discharge of their wastewaters into the land resources or terrestrial ecosystem. For instance, some iron and steel or metal processing, engineering, or chemical or teeming food always dump. The lists are not exhaustive. They always have a site in which they dump a landfill whereby they dispose of those waste. For example, if we permit industry to start dumping all of their residues into the normal landfill like Olusosun, you will be sure that at the very end of the day, some of those things can also lead to fire. Not only would it lead to fire, you will see that it will percolate into underground waters. It will also affect the quality of the land in that environment. Now, what are the causes of land pollution? Oil spillages. 2, the deposit of waste and the residues. 3, mining and winning activities of many companies. Now, if you have seen oil being drilled, there's what you call oil muds. When you put the machine when you drill into the underground, it comes out with mud, a mixture. The mud comes with a mixture of oil and water. Those mud that comes with those crude oil, if they are not properly discharged, if they are just dumped anyhow, the immediate terrestrial environment will be polluted, and that land will no longer be useful for any purposes. And so the pollution from mining activities, particularly the drill cuttings, the chemical spillages, and the leak from the oil products are also source of land pollution. What are the consequences of land pollution? Ingestion and inhalation of toxic substances. How do we ingest them? It's very simple now. When you go and harvest food crops on a polluted land, and you eat those carrots or vegetables, then you know that you are not only eating carrot in the natural sense, but also with dangerous chemicals. We can also take metal from contaminated soil. When they say there are a lot of cancers coming up, nobody bothered to find out. But those of us who are in the field of environment can tell you, cancers are man-made issue, because most of the drugs, most of the drinks, most of the food that we eat or drink contain substances that could be carcinogenic if overused, or mutagenic, that is, they can mutate, they can multiply in human beings if it is not properly. We can uptake of contamination in food plants. Some plants contain cadmium, lead, and so we find some of them in the food chain. That's why you see in Nigeria nobody recalls food, but abroad, once they find out that a food is contaminated, they will recall those food. Here, everything is good. We don't even know. With the introduction of biotechnology, where most of the productions of foods and fingerlings are being produced from by biotechnologies, contains a lot of chemicals. Some of the food chains and that is the major danger arising from the consumption of LMOs, living modified organism or genetic modified organism or plants or food, because they are actuated by chemical substances. It can also lead to contamination of waters, and also if waste are not properly dumped or deposited on land, it can lead to fire. Most landfill contains used batteries that can ignite fire, or lithium, or any of those. An accumulation of those waste can generate underground fire, which can be dangerous to mankind. Now, having said that, flooding and erosion is another problem of land use or land pollution on land use. And there are laws that we'll look at the laws. Erosion is an aspect of land degradation and can manifest itself in various ways, either through sheet erosion, gully erosion, or coastal erosion, or marine erosion, or land subsidence. Land subsidence is what you find when you say there is tremor. All those gully erosion in Agulu, or in the east, or in Umuahia. Those are as a result of land pollution. Now, what are the rules? I gave you those background for you to be able to understand the legal, the scientific explanation of pollution and circumstances and the effect of those things. Another problem that you find in land use and preservation, which I want to talk about, is the wetlands. You know what is called wetland? Wetlands are swamps or estuaries of rivers. Wetlands are areas where water is the dominant factor, controlling or determining the nature of soil development and the types of plant and animal community living in the soil and on its surface. They vary because of their regional and local differences in terms of soils, topography, climate, hydrology, water chemistry, vegetation, and other factors, including disturbance. Lagos has a lot of many wetlands, which we have already disturbed. Even where the University of Lagos is sited, it's a wetland. That's why you can see, if you go towards the back of Faculty of Law, Annex, you will see that water, that stream of water, that's a wetland. It's like a tributary of a river, usually dominated by water. And there are different kinds of erosions, different kinds of wetlands. We have so many of them in Nigeria. Parkview, that is presently developing into, it's a wetland. And as you can see, even some part of the Orange Island now, Oniru 2 is also a wetland. Makoko is a wetland, which are being filled for residential purposes. Now, these are of major concerns to environmentalists. Wetland is of importance, and you are expected to keep them. But because of human activities, we are reducing the number of wetlands that we have in Nigeria. What are the laws that regulate the controls of land pollution? I'm sure since we have done taught, you will know this very well. The rule in Rhineland and Fletcher, that is, the rule in Rhineland and Fletcher is the appropriate private remedy for land pollution. Keep your waste, keep your nuisance to yourself. The moment it escapes from your place to mine, then you are liable in damages. The rule in Rhineland and Fletcher is a strict liability offense. That is one of the common law rules. And if you look at the law still remains the same. There's also a law called Land Title Vesting Act, 1993, which is reported in Cap L, Laws of the Federation 2010, wherein the federal government claimed 100 meters of 1967 shoreline of Nigeria. The position that was confirmed by the Lagos City Council in the case by the Court of Appeal in Lagoon City Development Corporation against the AG of the Federation, reported in 2002, 14 Nigeria Weekly Law Report, part 786 at page 1. Beyond that, there is also the National Environmental Waste, in brackets, Waste, Wetland, River Basins and Law and Lake Shore Protection Regulation 2009. The law is very detailed. It was prepared by NESRA in exercise of its function to regulate activities within the wetlands area, because wetlands are an important source of protection. Again, the laws of petroleum law is also important in that regard. You can look at the case of Harmful Waste Special Criminal Provisions Act 1988, which prohibits the dumping or depositing of any harmful waste into any terrestrial river waters or contiguous zone of VAC and inland waterways, including wetlands. There are so many regulations. If you check the book, particularly at page 265, I have cited so many regulations made by NESDRA that tend to impact on land pollution. Of significance is the National and Environmental Sanitation and Waste Control Regulations 2011. It contains so many provisions relating to pollution on land and activities of industries that are likely to affect the land are also regulated in each media. If you look at page 265, I have said, you will see all those regulations. There are too many. You can just go and check the book and see. Finally, I have the Environmental Impact Assessment Act of 1992, which requires that before any activities can be done on land, we'll deal with that later. I think we should be, maybe the next class, if I can do chemical management with you. Then we move to EIA and almost getting closer to before we write exams. The Environmental Impact Assessment Act of 1992 requires that EIA must be done if there is any significant environmental impact of the activities to be undertaken on land. It is a federal law, and no activities, when we get there, we'll take a look at it, can be undertaken on land or any water resources without obtaining the EIA permit from NESDRA, although that function is being performed by Ministry of Environment. Class captain. Class captain, who is the class governor of this class?
Sir?
Who is the class governor of this class?
So I'm the one, sir.
What's the name? Taiwo?
Yes, sir.
Taiwo, who is the, I understand. I'm looking through my listing. I was a bit worried. The content of this meeting is being sent to a third party. Who is sending it? Is it a student in the class?
No, sir. The link is from Dr. Olabento.
Oh, okay. I'll find out from him whether they are sending our lectures online to another source, because they said the contents of this meeting is being sent to a third party. I wanted to know. Any question? I can undertake take questions from the students now. Are there no human beings in this class? The advantage of online.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Good afternoon. Good morning, sorry.
Good morning.
I don't have any, but I quite understand I have like an overview of what has been said so far about it, from the land pollution to the consequences to the different consequences and the example, the wetland aspect and the likes. Then I understand that to check some of the activities of the some of the human activities on land is why there are different rules and regulations put in place. However, while you were giving us the examples of some of the regulations, I could not get them, aside the rule in Rylands and Fletcher, which you have kind of shared with us from the beginning of the lectures we've had before now. So I don't know if it's possible. Please help us take those regulations again slowly, sir. Thank you.
The regulations are many. I cannot take all the regulations. I've asked you to take a look at the National Environmental Sanitation and Waste Control Regulation 2011. And that is why I refer you specifically to page 265 of my book. You will see all the regulations clearly stated there, because NESTRA passed so many regulations. If we are to take them one by one, this book will be like this, and they are interwoven. So you need to go into some of those regulations to see how it affects land pollution. But again, I also recommend to you to read the National Environmental Wetlands, Riverbanks, and Lakeshore Protection Regulations 2009. It also regulates activities on land pollution in wetlands. What activities you cannot do where wetlands are situated. We have a lot of laws that governs land pollution, particularly wetlands. Apart from the common law position, we have statutory. You know, environmental law is more of statutory regulations.
Good morning, sir.
Dari
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. I wanted to ask, is flooding and erosion a man-made cause of land pollution, or can we say that is under nature, caused by nature?
Erosion.
Yes,
what?
flooding and erosion.
Who caused erosion? By the time you start dumping waste into your drainages, you start into public gutters and public distance, you can cause erosion. You block the natural the natural routes for water to flow into the water. That's number one. That's human made. When you build on the canal, remember some few months ago or last year, the Commissioner for Environment went to Lushosun in Maryland to demolish some houses that were obstructing the flow of water. Is that the work of nature? It's also the work of man. Building on canal is human-made activities. Dumping of waste on land is man-made. So some of those erosion, if you allow nature to flow on its own, it has its own natural path. But either you block it, or you divert it, or you do something. You can even dump waste into the river that can even impact the free flow of the water. Again, you can dump a dangerous substance on the land that can lead to land to subside. If you go and drop explosives on land, would that land not subside? What led to many of the quakes, either in the water or on the land? It's too many activities that will affect the settlement of the land, sedimentary nature of the land. That clear?
Yes, thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome. I was approached last week to give the investor an extra copy of my book in the library. I might consider that and make that available very soon so that you guys can, those who have access to the book, and go and read there.
Thank you very much, sir. That would be really appreciated.
Okay, at my own sweat, but I will do that. They said they have one copy, and all of you borrow the book. But you have money to go and buy Samsung iPhone 10, iPhone 12. I know that maybe I am an old school. iPhone 16 is the one that is in vogue now. I'll do that later, but not now. Any other question? Class? Any other question?
No, sir.
Well, I read the work for today. I'm a bit tired. You can hear that, you can see the cold from my nose. Go to the library or go and check your book on land pollution. When we meet next week, when is next class for environmental law?
Next week, Thursday, sir.
Is it every Thursday? Thursday and Friday, Abi.
Yes,
Yes,
Thursday
sir.
and Friday.
Okay, by God's grace, if we meet next week, Thursday and Friday, if I don't take you chemical pollution or health waste management pollution, we might just go straight to EI. We have about 3 more topics to go. So let me see. The chemical pollution is a bit, and it's very important because they are the main cause of problem for mankind. They are also the main support for mankind. I always tell the chemists they are our problems. They mix so many chemicals and threaten our existence. On that note, you have a wonderful day.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Sir.
Thank you, sir.